I got out of the Army in 2013. I was a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne Division, and I broke my back on a jump. And from then, my life just really became isolated, and lots of depression and PTSD, and I just really couldn't adjust. And so my life really took a turn for the worst. And it was many years until I found this place. And through Deb and Don and the leadership they give here, I've learned how to just be, how to learn how to listen to my body, how to work on relationships with my family, my friends, strangers. I talk about what I learned here at church. I help others. I just think that what this program provides is the most special therapy you could possibly get. The horses show me so much about myself. If I'm in the round pen with my favorite partner, Whiskers, and I'm trying to connect with him, and maybe he's eating grass or drinking water or something, it might bring up feelings of abandonment or frustration, and that's just a really telltale sign of what I need to work on. So they show you what you need to work on in incredible ways. This has just been a truly healing place for me, and it's quiet and it's peaceful and nothing's being written down. I'm not held accountable to what I said the week before. It's just so safe, and I think that's what I love most about being here.
The Building Bridges Farm is a center of caring for veterans and their families. It was founded and established as a 501c3 nonprofit in 2015, and we operate with a board of directors of 11 people from a variety of vocations that have confirmed their commitment to advancing the mission of the foundation, a mission that was part of those registration papers. And it goes like this. Our mission is to provide a safe space, personal growth through equine assisted activities for veterans and their families, as well as those suffering from trauma and loss and those who are struggling with cognitive and emotional challenges. We have 115 volunteers that have signed up to participate with us here at Building Bridges. Some of them are here once a month, and we value every hour of time that is donated to sustain farm operations. We have some that are here weekly. We have some that are here several times a week, and we have some that just come to help us for the major events. We have 2 major events a year, usually on Veterans Day and Memorial Day. And at our last Veterans Day event, that was before COVID, we had 99 named tagged volunteers in place to care for a crowd of 500 people. It was a great time. We also have contract service personnel to do beyond what our volunteers can do. We have a plant manager that's here 4 days a week. And how did it happen? What prompted all of this? Well, as a young boy, Dave Anderson, the founder, the son of a Minnesota farmer, remembers his older brother returning from combat duty overseas, trying to find his way back into North American life. After struggling a few years at home, trapped by alcohol and depression, he took his own life, as did several of his military buddies. Today, we call it post-traumatic stress, and we recognize it as traumatic injury. But then it was called shell shock, and people didn't know how to respond to these veterans. As he grew older, Dave prospered in his business. He kept thinking there must be some healing, there must be a way of recovery to facilitate the lifetime that is yet ahead of returning veterans suffering from PTSD. In 2011, his wife Anita passed away, and he was left wondering how he could best use the farm. By 2015, he decided to begin Building Bridges Foundation, where veterans could come to receive healing through equine-assisted therapy, a non-traditional therapy with equine and mental health specialists at no cost to the veterans or their families.
PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is the response an individual has to experiencing or witnessing a terrifying or traumatic event. And symptoms of that can include flashbacks, nightmares, avoiding the stimulus. The symptoms in and of themselves usually start within 3 months after the traumatic event, may not actually appear till years later, but can usually be categorized in 4 basic categories. That would be the intrusive thoughts, avoidance, emotional disturbance, and or functional disturbance. You know, changes in the way you think and react to certain situations.
About 7 or 8 out of every 100 people, 7 to 8% of the population, will have PTSD at some point in their lives. About 8 million adults have PTSD during any given year. The U.S. Department of Veterans estimates that PTSD afflicts almost 31% of Vietnam vets, as many as 10% of Gulf War or Desert Storm veterans, 11% of veterans of the war in Afghanistan, and 20% of Iraq war veterans. That's an awful lot, you know, of our own, of folks that were willing to risk everything for us, and now, you know, have returned because of the experience that has happened. And I think there is a real obligation that any society has to care for folks.
The reality is that a significant portion of the United States, you know, Americans are afflicted, you know, with traumatic symptoms. 8 million folks will experience a traumatic event this year. That's a significant portion of society. Suicide in general is a significant issue in the population, but with veterans, they tend to have significantly higher rates. In terms of 22 veterans a day, 1 to 3 active veterans a day. That's quite alarming when you think about the overall numbers. And a lot of that has to do with, you know, the stigma that's attached to getting treatment, access to treatment, feeling supported, be able to pick up details in the environment that we may not necessarily pick up as civilians. All of these things that are ingrained in them as soldiers, as warriors, a lot of times don't help them function well when they return to society. So what we end up with is folks feeling like they don't really have people that they can turn to. They don't have people that understand what they're experiencing. Being told or described as having a disorder is off-putting to most veterans, and, you know, is counterintuitive for them because they're supposed to be in control of everything. So how can I be in control if I have a disorder, or, you know, what we like to refer to as the invisible wounds of war? It's really what it is. They're unseen, you know, injuries that the veterans often come home with.
The example I always use is diabetes. You know, if you walked into the doctors or you began noticing that you had something was going on, your vision, your this, your that, or the cold sweats or whatever having, you would go to a doctor and you would find out, and the doctor says to you, geez, you know, you're, you know, diabetes too. And this is...
If you're a veteran, a first responder, police officer, fireman, EMT, 9 times out of 10, doing your job requires you to have a heightened level of adrenaline, causes you to be on a heightened level of awareness. You know, you need to be in control of the situation. So when you return to civilian life, if you will, it tends to be a bit boring. So you're looking for ways to keep that excitement going. You're looking for ways to increase your ability to experience the kinds of things you experienced when you were deployed or working. So you turn to, you know, the things that can cause that kind of release of chemicals in the brain for yourself. And that may be the drugs, alcohol, gambling, significant risk-taking behaviors.
We'll cue it up.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight
Were the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming,
and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air,
Gave proof through the night that our flag was still there.
oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land